start public comment with the people who signed in earlier. And then first on the list is Jennifer Powell. Is Jennifer here?
Cheryl, people are saying they can't hear from Zoom, just so you know.
I can't hear you.
They're saying they can't, people who are listening on Zoom are saying they cannot hear, so I just wanted to tell you about that.
That's a good
You
thing to
should
tell
have
me.
I just unmuted you, I'm sorry.
How's that now, everybody? Can you hear us?
Yes, they can.
You can?
There you
Okay,
go.
thank you.
All right.
All right. Jennifer Powell, are you
I don't
here?
see Jennifer Brown.
Oh,
Oh,
So she might be doing it remotely.
I don't see that person as a.
okay. Dagmar Meacham. Were you wanting to do public comment?
Yes. Where do I stand?
You can stand right up here.
in the front
All right.
section.
Oh, it's so weird being here and seeing everybody in person. Hello, my name is Dagmar Meacham. I'd rather stand. I'm a
Okay,
teacher.
let's
We
stand.
stand all day. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've been following the school committee meetings since they began being held virtually. I have reached out a variety of times regarding the hybrid plan and in support of the anti-racism resolution, which, as I'm sure you recall, were both hot topics in our community. I feel it's necessary today to speak publicly in response to comments made at the last school committee meeting. First, I'm here to support moving forward with the equity audit and believe that it is a necessary next step for our district. There are many members of the community who do not see or acknowledge this need, but being able to turn a blind eye to inequities is a privilege that some are not afforded. The topic of critical race theory did not come out of nowhere for the last meeting. There are movements across the country attempting to shut down the teaching of critical race theory in schools. As someone who is accused of supporting and pushing critical race theory during my candidacy, I had to go and look it up to be sure I understood what my platform was. In the process of learning about critical race theory, I found that it is not being accurately portrayed by those who oppose it. It is being used to describe anything that mentions racism, anti-racism, equity, diversity, etc. While I understand the talking points express concern over a focus on race and labeling groups as oppressors and oppressed, I did not find that in my research. I therefore question the motives of the groups that are backing this organized opposition. I'm frustrated that these talking points from Fox News, Parents Against Critical Theory, and the Heritage Foundation are making their way into our town school committee meetings. I spoke with some community members about whether we need to fight back against those fighting against something we had never fought for in the first place. And the response was that what we have to fight against is white supremacy. Distinguished Professor of Law, Frances Lee Ainsley, in her 1989 Cornell Law Review, referred to white supremacy as a political, economic, and cultural system in which whites overwhelmingly control power and material resources, and in which conscious and unconscious ideas of white superiority and entitlement are widespread. So, why have equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice recently become bad words? Why are the decisions that you made to increase equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice through an equity audit being attacked now? These are the desperate attempts of white supremacy to maintain power and control. Poet and activist Kyle Guante Tran Meyer said, "White supremacy is not a shark, it is the water." The equity audit would give our district the ability to peer into that water and unpack the ways in which it falls short of serving the needs of all of our students. When you are asked to think about how fragile the white children are and the burden they will have to carry, I want you to ask yourselves who truly has to walk on eggshells when they walk down the halls of our schools. Who has to make themselves small to avoid being perceived as a threat? Who has had assumptions made about their capabilities and their background? Who has had to assimilate and give up small little pieces of themselves over and over? If the white bodies of our children were at risk, would we hesitate to respond? Would we wait and see what other communities were doing before taking action, action that we already promised? If our white children's education was at risk, would we debate their reality publicly? Would we let the community weigh in over and over and over while halting any progress towards addressing their needs? You are here to make sure that every single student in your schools receives an equitable education in a safe environment. And although you may believe this is the case, I assure you that after talking to many teachers, parents, and students, it is not. You must move forward with the equity audit as promised. A failure to act harms all of our children. It harms our children who are white, Black, brown, Asian, LGBTQ+, as well as those with physical and learning disabilities. White supremacy asks for us to remain stagnant. It asks for us to slow down and take smaller steps. White supremacy will tell you that tolerance of differences is enough. White supremacy asks for us to believe that the comfort of some children should take precedence over rectifying systemic and structural inequalities that are a disservice to all of our students. So I'm asking you to be the leaders you were elected to be and to continue forward with the next step, to peer into those dark waters of white supremacy. I'm asking that you commit to an equity audit this year as a part of the strategic planning and to not hold off any longer. It is what is in the best interest of all of our children and our community, and I thank you for all of your hard work and everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you.
Renee Bracy.
Would also say that Jennifer Powell is here. just so you're
Thank
aware.
you.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Renee Bracy. I'm a mother of two beautiful multiracial boys in the district, and a proud biracial woman, and I'm a mental health therapist with a specialty in treating minority populations as well as anxiety and depression. I work in Wilbraham and support many families in our school district. I am here today to voice my support for the school committee's decision to conduct an equity audit using an outside agency. I understand that there are numerous individuals in town opposing this audit, and I have even heard committee members downplaying and at times even questioning its significance. Last meeting, you had community members rattle off Fox News talking points, afraid of a concept that they clearly have spent little to no effort learning about. Throughout history, when progress towards equity and justice is being made, those who fear their grasp on power slipping begin to mobilize. This happened last year after you passed the anti-racism resolution, a resolution committing the district to better supporting students of color and creating a more inclusive classroom setting. Those in opposition swooped in to preserve their ability to continue the systems of oppression that have benefited them. And here again, a year later, even as you have stalled on completing this necessary audit, are people still trying to get you to stop it, using language like banning theories and stopping the indoctrination of our youth? What I see happening in these meetings and throughout our country is a small group of people fearful of losing their power, clinging to the provocative language and the naivety of the American people in order to preserve their racist ideology and oppressive systems. Please look past this nonsense and focus on the task at hand, preparing our youth for the future. Our world is changing. Our country continues to diversify and evolve, and our children need to be ready for this. As a mother, I implore you to move forward with this audit, to prioritize it and take the information you get from it and use it to improve this district. As a mental health professional treating children in this district, I urge you to take swift action. The pandemic has unearthed many issues woven into the fabric of our society. It has unearthed the inequities and forced us to see the ugly truth we have kept buried for far too long. The equity audit is the first step, followed by a robust strategic plan with action steps aimed to truly address the issues our district faces. Equity is not just about students of color. It's about ensuring that young women are given the same opportunities as young men, that our special education programs are properly addressing the needs of our students, that students with mental health challenges are getting the right services and accommodations. I would think that after this past year, the committee would want to take a hard look at the district. I think about the inequities that students in cohort D faced for nearly a quarter. Students learning online with a 1 to 130 student to teacher ratio, issues with device distribution and families lacking internet access. And most upsetting to me was at the end of this year, as students were celebrating the finishing up of school, remote students were left out. No donuts were given to them as they watched their classmates meet them. No movies were played for them. They just sat at home alone, as they've done the bulk of this school year. We have inequities everywhere. The creation of our country has been flawed from the beginning, but only when we are brave enough to look inward and do the work can we see meaningful change. Please do the work, make the change. Our kids are counting on it.
Thank you.
Jennifer Powell.
I'm Jen Powell. I know a lot of you. I've never been to a school committee meeting before. By trade, I'm a wallpaper hanger. I have 2 children that go to Wilbraham Middle School, and I've always thought, I'm not an educator. I leave it up to you. I really do. I like everything you do with the school district, and we're happy with the results. My kids are smart. They're doing the right thing. We're good. I'm here to sort of explain to you my view of the equity audit and why it's important and how it happened to me. I always thought I was a very well-rounded, non-racist, non-judgmental, accepting person. And I did something stupid. I did something that I'm going to share with you that is really embarrassing for me. It'll probably make you squirm in your seats, but it'll also tell you how finding out about what we do can change who you are and how you approach the world and be a better person. I was the president of the Children's Museum about 8 years ago, and I got a letter that said that the town was going to knock off half the building and put in a ramp and make it accessible for people with disabilities. And I thought, this is ridiculous. It's $500,000. How dare they? We don't need this. I've got great exhibits in there. We worked on painting. We just got the carpet done, and nobody consulted me and nobody asked me. Notice I have absolutely no disabilities whatsoever. Well, my husband might argue with that, but I really don't have any disabilities. Okay. So I wasn't thinking about what they were trying to do. I was thinking about, I'm doing the right thing here. I've got it all worked out. There's nothing really to do. Move on. And I went to the Commission on Disabilities, and I believe they still meet. And there's about 8 or 10 people there, all with significant disabilities, whether sight or hearing loss, mobility, you name it. And I presented to them that I didn't think that they should do this. And I didn't think that they should spend that kind of money. And I actually said to them, nobody with disabilities comes into the Children's Museum. Why should we make it accessible? It's not like we need to make it accessible because nobody's in a wheelchair who comes to the Children's Museum. Okay, that's what keeps me up at night, that I actually said that to 10 people in wheelchairs. Okay, that was awful, and I wasn't thinking about it. And a woman there, I don't know who she was, but she took the time with me. And that's what these people and these kids do. They take the time with you to say, listen, what are you afraid of? She said that to me, and I was angry that she said, what are you afraid of? I was like, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm a good person. I'm doing the right thing. I just don't think that you should do this. It was the wrong thing to say. It was the wrong thing to think. And she was trying to tell me, listen, you're scared of something. What are you scared of? Think about what you're scared of, not what she's going to tell me I'm scared of, but what are you scared of? And I realized, there's really no reason not to do this. There's no reason not to put in a ramp. And then she went further and she said, well, just because you're not in a wheelchair doesn't mean you won't be on crutches tomorrow. Fast forward 4 years later, I was on crutches, and I realized how absolutely awful that is. And I'll get to that. But, you know, I'm also not a person of color, but someday my grandchildren might be. I just don't know. So I have to make it better now, even though it doesn't affect me. And I have to listen to the people who know I don't know what it's like. So we have to listen to what that information comes from the equity audit. I really hope you do it. And then I hope you take the information and you say, hey, we don't do this. Can you believe we don't have a door that these kids can open? Or we don't have Black teachers because they don't feel comfortable coming here. It's not because they don't want to. Maybe they don't think they're welcome. We have to listen to the information that we get from this and be better people. And I'll be honest, 2 years ago, I broke my leg and I started to cry at the post office. I cried at the post office because I could not get the door open on crutches. It's true. The door is so heavy. If you need to get your mail at the post office, you need to open the door, and you can't do it when you're on crutches. Try it next time you're there. I still have not gone to the post office and said, hey, listen, I'm back to normal, but you know, there's a whole bunch of people out here in wheelchairs and crutches who can't get their mail. You're not paying attention. And I didn't do anything with my personal equity audit. I didn't say, oh gosh, I learned that lesson and I got to do something with it. It's not just what we learn. It's not just what this committee is presented with, but it's also that we're brave enough to follow through with it and make changes that make the kids better, make them so they don't cry after they get off the bus, make them want to raise their hand, empower them with information that's relative to them, because maybe we're teaching them about important people of color that we never taught them about before. So everybody's important. And that was my information on an equity audit per Jen Powell. And I hope that you really do it and not just do the equity audit, but take the info and learn from it and implement it, at least parts of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eric,
I'm gonna stay seated for answers like. in my own space. If you don't mind, I'm reading a letter that was signed by about 100 families, which will be copies for, so this is my personal statement that's been drafted for all of us. And it's also about the equity audit. Dear school committee members, we are members of the community and we urge you to move forward with the equity audit as proposed for July 1st, 2021. Although we understand that this equity audit and its goals are being conflated with critical race theory and the 1619 project, that is not what the equity audit is about. Critical race theory is a lens for students to understand and engage our world today. Critical race theory does not look to make anyone feel guilty or victimized. The goal is to empower all students to analyze problems and make a better world. But the equity audit is not critical race theory. Superintendent Gannon expressed what the equity audit meant to him when he said, quote, when we talk about equity and diversity, it's not just about students of color. We have to realize that there's a lot we need to look at. And as he said, we are just touching the tip of the iceberg of what we're doing. On April 15th, 2021, Minnetonka Regional High School's Diversity and Culture Club came to address you. Their last act as students of this club was to share with you their experiences and concerns in our school district. They asked you to continue the work they started, to train teachers, find ways to diversify the staff, and to include history that fully represents the contributions to our country by marginalized groups. And school committee chair Cheryl Caruana then addressed the committee to share the progress with the equity audit. She explained why it was put off until June 30th and expressed that there was a vigorous plan that would look at everything, including social and emotional learning, including data, including academic rigor, including our curriculum. This was the plan presented to our community, and this is the expectation. It was said at the last school committee that the equity audit was not a foregone conclusion. This is the reason for this letter. For many members of the community, it felt as if you were backing down on a promise to the parents and a promise to the community that our schools would engage in real self-reflection. Most disturbingly, you seem to be breaking a promise that you would commit time and resources to ensuring equity to all current and future students of the Hampton-Wilbraham Regional School District. If you ignore equity and do not complete this audit, you are choosing not to teach and learn about the real impact of racism, sexism, ableism, etc. To do nothing is as much of a choice as it is to take these first steps towards positive change. The difference is by choosing to conduct an audit, you will empower our students, embrace the district's diverse culture, and show appreciation for everyone's uniqueness. You will be making the best choice for the community. This coming summer, the school committee will be working on the strategic plan. As Superintendent Gannon said at the last meeting, anything that is not part of the strategic plan has to be put to the side. And is equity something we are really willing to put to the side? The equity audit cannot inform the strategic plan if it happens after the strategic plan is formed. A strategic plan lasts for 5 years, and any planning done without an assessment of data about all aspects under consideration will be a waste of time, effort, and resources, and will be an incomplete product. The school committee has been on the track since last summer in making the equity audit a priority to inform the strategic planning. We applaud that effort and support that decision. Please do not allow your good work to be derailed. That's time. Thank you.
thank you. Those of you who have brought letters to read, if you do have an extra copy, we would appreciate having it for our records. If you don't and you could send us a copy, that would be great. Diane Dia.
She wrote in the chat that she got stuck at work and would submit something in writing.
Okay, thank you. Do I have the,
There you go. Okay.
so it's, those of you who are going to continue to speak, if you could just kind of come up a little closer. I know why you didn't, Marion, that's fine. It's really hard to hear with this overhang, so I want to make sure that we can all hear it. Listening. Gail Chibelli. Okay, thank you, Gail. Jamie Sakis.
Cahill. Yes. I'm-
Gail, sorry, I couldn't hear it. You're gonna pass. Tara Koza.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Tara.
Hello, I did speak last week, and I do just want to note that I submitted my paperwork and my links, and none of my references were from Fox News, so I just had to make that clear.
Thank you.
But again, my name is Tara Kozub. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to make public comment here tonight. I am here tonight to express my grave concern about the trajectory of our district, specifically with regard to this committee's push for an equity audit. It has been 20 years since the school committee has drafted an updated version of the district's strategic plan. Yet rather than direct your time and energy into that vital project, a project that would benefit all children for years to come, I am deeply concerned to see this committee hyper-focusing time and much needed financial resources on an equity audit under the misguided assumption that it will benefit some children. What is an equity audit? An equity audit is far different from an equality audit. While an equality audit would measure whether our district is providing equal opportunity for all and stems from the belief in individual rights and the premise that all men and women are created equal, an inherently American value. An equity audit is designed to measure whether our district is providing equal outcomes for all and stems from the belief in the rights of the collective over the rights of the individual, an inherently anti-American value with its roots in Marxism shaped by Karl Marx's credo, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. Over the last year, we have heard the words equity and equality used interchangeably, which is a mistake, as equity and equality are antithetical to one another. Equality seeks equal opportunity, while equity seeks equal outcome. It has been aptly said that equality challenges power and equity protects it. We have all heard much talk about equity audits and the quest for equity in the education world over the last year. As someone with an undergraduate and graduate degree in education, while I heard much about equality in college and grad school, I heard nothing about equity until the last year. While this term may be new to many of us, it is a frighteningly familiar one to these two moms who I'd like to tell you about tonight. Their stories speak louder and better than anything that I could ever say. Millennia K, Soviet immigrant and mother of three from Bedford, New York, warns, the proposed anti-racist program is just a prettier name for racial Marxist teaching. You don't need to sugarcoat it for me. I lived it. Same methods, same vocabulary, same preferential treatment for certain groups. That's why equity is packed with good causes, like diversity and inclusion, so nobody can challenge it. But I know. I was born in Soviet Union and my family has seen it all. Suffering first from Nazi and then the tyrannical Soviet ideology. Back there, what started with equity for all quickly ended with nothing to eat for my family. And now my family is here because of it, here in America, because equity does not work. We did not come here for a blanketed synthetic equity. We had enough of that one. We came here to America for equal opportunity under the laws and freedoms in this country. Equity was just a tool used by communists to make sure everyone was equally poorly educated, so people didn't question authority. While in definition it was about fairness, in reality, it means same outcome. Nobody excels, mind-boggling sameness. The key tactic is to remove all the incentive and motivation to succeed for all the students. What equity means in reality is making everyone mediocre. I have a message for everyone here. I lived in Siberia. I switched the continents because of equity. I can and will switch the school district if the equity gets pushed, but I will never switch on American dream and equal opportunity for my children, which lifts people up, which gives second chances to people like me, motivates and brings the best in people regardless of race and ethnicity. I lived it. Now I'd like you to meet Z Van Fleet, a mom and immigrant from Sichuan province, China, who grew up under Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution. Seeing the history of communist China being repeated right here in America, Z recently spoke out at a school board meeting in Loudoun County, Virginia, and this is what she said. The communist regime used the same critical theory to divide people. The only difference is they used class instead of race. We were taught to denounce our heritage, and Red Guards destroyed anything that is not communist, statues, books, and anything else. We were also encouraged to report on each other, just like student equity ambassador programs and the bias reporting system. This is indeed the American version of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. The critical race theory has its roots in cultural Marxism. It should have no place at our school. I just want Americans to know that their privilege is to be here, living in America. That is the biggest privilege. I do not think a lot of people understand. They are thinking they're doing the right thing, be against racism. It sounds really good, but they're basically breaking the system that is against racism. Equity audits are conducted in school districts. This is my speaking now. Equity audits are being conducted in school districts nationwide. And it has been reported that equity audits are the gateway to the implementation of critical race theory in school districts nationwide. How are these equity audits being used to shape the curriculum and policies in school districts nationwide? Here are a few examples, and I'm just about to finish up. In Fairfax County, Virginia, the chief diversity officer and school board recommended redrawing school boundaries in the name of integrating schools for diversity. In Howard County, Maryland, the school board proposed busing 7,300 students out of their neighborhood schools in exchange for busing non-residents into the district in the name of equity. With this real life scenario in mind, I ask you tonight to declare your position on such measures. Pending the results of the equity audit you are proposing, would you consider moving school boundaries and busing HWRSD residents out of this district and non-residents into this district in the name of equity? In the New York City school system, there is now a push from the Department of Education to eliminate all quote unquote discriminatory gifted and talented programs in the name of equity. A similar push is underway in California and Virginia, where the 2021 frameworks seek to end advanced math courses in the name of equity. When asked for your position on critical race theory earlier this month, you, the school committee, reaffirmed your commitment to the quote, and I quote, "You stand with the Massachusetts curriculum framework." And so I respectfully ask you tonight, if an equity audit in the Massachusetts curriculum framework compelled the HWRSD to eliminate all advanced math courses in the name of equity, would you comply? Would you stand with the framework and eliminate advanced math classes in the name of equity, or stand with the students in protecting equal opportunity for all? If an equity audit recommended redrawing our district boundaries and eliminating AP and honors classes in the name of equity, would you support or oppose these recommendations? In 1947, a wise man warned, as I end tonight, to save a man from the morass of propaganda, in my opinion, is one of the chief aims of education. The function of education, therefore, is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. But education which stops with efficiency may prove the greatest menace to society. The most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason, but with no morals. If we are not careful, our colleges, and I will add, our school committees, will produce a group of closed-minded, unscientific, illogical propagandists consumed with a moral axe. Be careful, brethren. Be careful, teachers. That wise man is a hero of mine named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Tonight, I stand with him again in echoing his warning, be careful, brethren, be careful, teachers, be careful, school committee. And I thank you very much. I have links to all of my sources here, and I promise you they're not from Fox News.
Thank you. Michael, Window. Michael, did I pronounce your last name right?
SK window, Squindo.
Thank you.
Have to clarify that.
Regularly. When in doubt, you can just go with squid. To the honorable school members of the school committee, my name is Michael Squindo. I'm a Wilbraham resident of 12 Pond Road. Before I begin, let me share with you a bit of my background and who I am. I am here tonight as a proud father of a 6-month-old boy. Thank you. And the strategic plan that you are creating today for tomorrow and years to come will directly impact my son, if and when he should attend the Hamden Wilbraham Public School District. I am also here as a licensed certified social worker, having spent 4 years earning an undergraduate degree from Champlain College and 3 years in the graduate program at Springfield College's School of Social Work, earning my master's while working full-time and completing over 1,000 hours of internship. The first 450 hours of which I spent in a hybrid school partnership between the city of Hartford and a local nonprofit with the goal of helping chronically truant youth to succeed in gaining a high school diploma. I wrote my first policy research paper in my master's program on the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. I share this with you because while I am far from an educational expert, my current field of practice is with the elderly, but I am no stranger to the importance of a positive environment and the impact that it has on adequate learning. According to the Massachusetts Department of Education, quote, the school committee has oversight of and responsibility for the school system, sets the direction which the system must go, and establishes criteria to determine if goals and policies are being met. The superintendent serves as the school committee's chief executive officer and educational advisor. First, I just want to caveat, I share that because I had to learn the role of the school committee by going online. It hasn't been very clear to me.
Me neither.
And in this respect, there is nothing that is not in your lane, as I hear so often come up in discussion during these meetings. While I would agree, however, that the daily operations are outside of your immediate purview, there is no denying that the decisions you make at these meetings will have a direct causal effect on the decisions made by the administration of the school system and each individual school. With this understood, and unless somebody can clearly explain to me a different perspective, everything begins and ends with you, including the school culture and the very environment in which our students will either be set up for success or struggle. Culture can mean many different things, but in this case, I'm referring to the way in which students and faculty and staff feel when they come to school to learn, teach, and work. A culture which for some, as shared by very brave students at a recent school committee on 415, is not welcoming and equal. If you fail to appreciate and accept the identities of each student learner, including their unique and collective needs based on their chosen, not assigned identity, then you fail as a system to serve all of your students and the student body as a whole. I agree with Dr. Bontempi and the others that are pushing for a strategic plan and that it is necessary for the success of the school system. And if it's true that one has not been completed in 20 or so years, you're effectively driving a bus, knowing only vaguely where you're looking to go, but without directions on how to get there. I also agree with Chair Caruana and those of you who so strongly advocate for the need for an equity audit. Without an equity audit, how can you begin to understand how to be successful as an educational system? Your job is greater than setting a school budget from year to year. I posit to you all that a strategic plan will never be complete without addressing equity within our cultural environment. As a lifelong learner and as a father of a compassionate, intelligent, and loving 6-month-old son who may one day be walking the halls of Minnetonka, I implore you to support the use of an equity audit today. I want to be clear and state publicly that an equity audit needs to be encompassing. Equity needs to address racial, socioeconomic, cultural, able and non-able, and though others in the audience may disagree with me, political equity. And this is not an exhaustive list. Finally, with all due respect to Dr. Bontempi, the others in the crowd, and myself, it is neither my voice nor the voice of any other taxpayer that should drive this decision. Instead, it is the voice of the students from the Minnetonka Regional High School Diversity Club who shared how they did not feel fully valued based on their experiences. And all those students who do not feel valued enough to even come before you with their stories of exclusion, hate, and hurt. Sorry, I was hoping to have this printed up, but. And that their words on 415, those are the voices that you should be guided by when you decide to conduct an equity audit. Show the students of Hamden and Wilbraham that they do matter, and that their words on 415 have not been shared in vain. It is not enough to state your compassion. You must be willing to show it. You must be willing to hear your own story and how it has impacted someone else's, and be willing to edit that story to improve the story and the culture of Hamden-Wilbraham Regional School District. And before I walk away, I will share with the committee that I'll be sending a link to a video. You may have seen it. But in short, it's a gym teacher or coach, and he asks his students a series of questions. And if the questions apply to you or don't apply to you, you advance or don't accordingly. By the end of it all, they're then going to compete in a race. The message being that equity is making sure that everybody has a fair starting point. We do not have a fair starting point for all of our students, and that's what this equity audit will help to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've gone through my list of names that needed to come up. Was there anyone I missed?
Seeing as how two people
Max?
have decided not to, can I have permission to speak to the board as a Minnetonka alum?
Yes.
All right, so a little bit about me. I'm Max. I entered the Wilbraham school system around 2005. I actually had Chair Caruana as my science lab teacher at Old Memorial Elementary School. I graduated Minnetonka in 2015, and just hearing everything from people on both sides of tonight, I'm in full support of the equity audit. I remember walking through the halls of Minnetonka as well as my elementary and middle school, and not recalling a single Black teacher in my entire experience. And that's something that's very disheartening, not just to me, that it seems that the system is not necessarily promoting diversity, but also for people in minorities. My best friend is a first-generation Chinese American. I know that he personally would have loved to see another fully first-generation or a teacher from China in the Minnetonka school system. It's not just about what's right, what's wrong, forming a strategic plan. It's trying to help build mentors and try to help people and students that really do need the help, whether that be racial, physical health, mental health, socioeconomic, whatever. I just wanted to bring forward as my experience as a CHOG alum in order to help build the next strategic plan, as somebody who has been a part of the strategic plan that was formed 20 years ago, as somebody who was part of that for 10 years, saying that we really need to have a push in this diversity across all boards. Thank you.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you. Thank you, Max.
And last but not least, I think we have Sarah Kowalski.
Hello, members of the school committee. Hello, general public who's here today to witness everything that's being said. I forgive you that I'm speaking a little off the cuff, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I'm here in favor
to speak, as to why we should have the equity audit. Some people might have to research faraway examples from all the way to New York, Texas, across the country. I can talk about my personal experience and the experience of my children in the Wilbraham Public Schools. I speak to you today as a student who has gone through and graduated from Minnechaug Regional High School, as a community member who has lived here most of my life, as a parent of 3 students in the district, as an educator who does have an advanced degree in education. There's many reasons why we might want to pursue an equity audit, despite what some of the community would have us believe. It's not a goal of anyone on the school committee or anyone in the town who has children here to dumb down our children and to let them receive a lower quality of education. Rather, the audit would give us a chance to peer into some of the things that we might take for granted, that we might not realize. So just a few examples from personal experience. During this meeting today, for example, sitting in the back, I could not hear half of the speakers speak. Some people probably had some really great things to say, but we don't have a microphone up here. Is that equitable? Does that give access to all the people who want to hear what's going on today? What about the people at home? I know me and some of my friends, we've been watching along during the pandemic online. Has it been the best experience there? Do we have closed captioning? Do we have any other ways for people who might be hard of hearing to access? These are some of the questions that would be brought up. Again, not saying that we have to make these meetings 100% different, but are there ways that we can improve them and give more access so that more people can be successful? As a student in Minnechaug, I had the displeasure of breaking one of my bones, and I was on crutches. I know, looking around, I know some people here have had children in the same experience. A friend of mine had to take a leave of absence from her own employment as an educator when her child broke his leg because of the difficulty of getting him onto the bus, into school, dealing with the wheelchair, and only being able to attend part of the day because of the difficulty. These doors in school don't make it easy. Traveling from one end of the building to the other doesn't make it easy. During the time in which I was incapacitated and on crutches, I had to go from the band room in the old building all the way to the 3rd floor up to math class in a limited amount of time. Even though I was released a couple minutes early, getting to class, it just couldn't physically do it. Waiting for the elevators. If anyone's had to experience using the elevators in these buildings, it's not pleasant. It's not fun. Can be late to class. I remember getting a detention. This day and age, if you're to get a detention for having a disability, would that fly? I don't know. These are the kind of things we need answers for. I was a very smart student, but during the time in which I had physical trouble, I could not access my class the same way other people could. Was I dumb? Was I asking other people to dumb down for me? No, I just would have liked the chance not to be penalized. I would have liked the chance to be able to not made to feel less than human by my teachers or punished and have to stay after school because of something I couldn't control. My children in the district at various times have come home crying. You might not know looking at me, but I'm a member of a multiracial family. And first time kids came home, son was upset, asked him what was wrong. I just can't wash the Chinese off my face. I wish I was white like my other classmates. You feel different enough when you're a student of color in the district. Then when you have classmates or projects that bring some of these things to the forefront, such as when we had the last election, my students came home saying everyone made posters in their class in support of Donald Trump. And maybe they had a different opinion. Maybe they supported a different candidate. And to come home and feel, I'm kind of worried that if this is the person my classmates all support, what do they think of me? What do they think of me and my Asian face? During the pandemic, many attacks were brought upon the Asian community as a result of some of the rhetoric and hatred in the world. They didn't want to go back to school. They didn't want to go back to school because of something that they have no control over, something that they should be proud of. their ethnic heritage. I don't have to look in a newspaper or do any research to come to this school and tell you there's things we can do better. What does it hurt to ask these questions? What does it hurt? Who does it hurt? It can only make Wilbraham and Hamden stronger and better and more knowing of what goes on in the world. We don't want our kids so sheltered that we can't broach the subject of history being inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did I miss anyone? All right, thank you so much for your comments. We truly appreciate it.
Very much so. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I think a round of applause is doable because everyone here gave a lot of time and thought. And I know that you've all come to make us better. Thank you. Before we go on, one of the things that I had wanted to do and didn't, I'd like to just have a moment of silence for the people in the Miami building that collapsed in the middle of last night. Thank you. All right. Okay, moving on to our HWRSD updates, the Director of Finance and Operations.
Alrighty, so I have two items for hopefully your review and approval. The first is the appointment of a treasurer. This is a position that is appointed by the school committee. And it's a position that we would like to make a mild change to. For a number of years, the role of treasurer has been fulfilled by an outside individual on a very part-time basis. That person has come in a couple times here and there during the course of the year. And what we would like to do is bring that position in-house. So we have an existing person who has served as assistant treasurer for some time. She's gained considerable experience. She does the vast majority of the job of treasurer as it is. We would like to name her treasurer and roll it into her current position. This was some planning that was also done in the context of the budget. I have spoken with the person who had been in that role. She is agreeable to provide some mentoring time and support. She is an individual who retired a number of years ago and has been doing this, as a sort of retirement gig. I would also like to sort of plan for the future, right? So I'd like to have a long-term solution to having a regular treasurer who's in the office on a regular basis, who can be a go-to and perform that work. The work of the treasurer is fairly routine. Much of their job is reconciling our bank accounts against the financial system that we use, Infinite Visions, and making sure that all of those numbers tie out so that the numbers add up. They also have an increased role when we do any sort of borrowing. So when we do MSBA projects or things like that, they have an increased role with that. Sabrina will need some training in some of those areas, but I believe we're committed to providing that. There is some budgetary benefit to this as well. So there is some savings that we have managed to roll in. It's not tremendous savings, but I feel like any sort of savings that we can try to provide to push more finances, more money into programming for students, we'd like to do that. So I would recommend that you vote to appoint Sabrina Loftus to the role of district treasurer.
Is there any discussion? Well, let's make a motion first. Thank you, Sean.
I make the motion to approve the appointment of Sabrina Loftus to the role of district treasurer with the Hampden-Wilbraham Regional School District for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I just say it's 2022? Sorry.
Oh, 2022, sorry. I'm wearing my glasses.
No problem.
Please amend that to 2022, please. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Please wait for your name to be called before you say aye or nay. Michelle B.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Patrick.
Aye.
Michelle E.
Aye.
Maura.
Aye.
Sean.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second item is a little bit of housekeeping. These are changes to our Appendix B to our Unit 8 contract. We have a number of stipended positions that are paid for a number of duties that staff and sometimes non-existing staff perform. That can include coaching sports. It can include being an advisor to various clubs and things like that. This came back to me a few months ago, and I'll be honest, I backburnered it with everything going on. I would have liked to have brought this forward in April, but all of these changes are budgeted, and they are planned for, and they're done in a thoughtful manner. The first thing we would like to do is add a stipend for esports. And esports is an up-and-coming legitimate sport. It's recognized by the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association. The NCAA does not yet formally recognize esports, but there is a National Association of Collegiate Esports that includes a number of schools nationally. I didn't take down the actual number. I apologize. Northeastern, Iona College, Ohio State University all participate in esports. Esports is a $1.1 billion global industry with 443 million viewers. All games played in esports are carefully reviewed by school administrators and the MIA for appropriateness. Two games currently being played, for example, are League of Legends, which is rated teen, and Rocket League, which is rated for everyone. These are sports that are conducted as team sports, so you're not playing as an individual. And while it won't seem to be at first glance a direct corollary to some of our traditional sports, esports stress the importance of teamwork, socialization, and sportsmanship, while requiring considerable practice, hand-eye coordination, and focus. I also think it breaks up sort of our traditional thinking of what sports are. I think it also enhances our view of equity, what we consider competition in this world. The second change is to align the junior varsity field hockey stipend with comparable stipends in sports such as lacrosse with similar requirements. This is an item where the stipends were revised a few years ago. The administration at the high school has looked at the stipends carefully and really feel that field hockey is comparable to those other stipends. So it makes sense to provide a similar stipend for junior varsity field hockey. So that results in a small change to that. That's a small increase. We're also proposing the addition of stipends in French, Spanish, and video game clubs. So these are really based on student interest. There is a lot of interest in French and Spanish clubs. We see these as opportunities for students to explore not only language, but culture, customs, and history of regions that speak these languages. The video game club serves a distinct interest area, encompasses a broad interest range that includes the industry as a whole, the video game industry as a whole, which is a very large industry, game design, programming, sociological aspects, and much more. The final change would be the removal of an outing club. The outing club just has suffered from a lack of interest for many years. There really has not been any interest. So we felt that as we're adding things, we felt that if there was an opportunity to remove something that made sense budgetarily, this was one of those areas. If in coming years we see an increase in interest and students start saying we'd really like to do more of the outing club activities, we could talk about bringing that back. It's not something that would be a budget killer to try to bring back. It just made sense as we're thinking about what can stay and what can go. This is one of the items that might fall off the plate for the time being. It could come back at some point. So I feel that these were thoughtful changes provided by the high school administration. The net impact was small, and I did include, despite the fact I didn't bring it to you sooner, it was included in the budget process. So these are all effectively budget neutral to the budget we passed.
Do you need one motion for all of this?
One motion can be all of it. I've written
I can
what
read
I
it.
think could.
I make a motion to approve the attached revised appendix B to the 2019-2022 Unit A contract. Is that correct?
Yep.
With a net impact of $5,217, which was included in the fiscal 2022 budget.
Second.
Does that work?
Do you have a second?
Bill seconded.
Any discussion?
I have a question, not tied to this, but in the writing there. So it talks about under the stipends and salary differentials, if the teacher teaches 50, I assume we should say students, then they are classified as for purposes of department chair compensation. Do we have anybody that's earning compensation based off of that?
I'm sorry, where are we right
So if you go on the last page, where it shows in appendix B, where it shows the stipend salary differentials, and not looking at the answer now, I would be curious though, if we've got anybody that is drawing added compensation based off of class size.
This one, I think. Gotcha.
Oh.
And then the follow-up question then would be, if you look at it,
Yeah.
are we saying that 21 or more would be a 15% increase on teaching salary? So I just would be curious as we enter negotiations.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I think I would just make an observation. It seems sad that we're taking an outdoor activity and taking it off the roster and we're adding an indoor activity. I would hope that we would be moving in the other direction and trying to encourage kids to get outside, not stay inside.
If we can get interest, I'd love to bring it back to you. It's not designed to just take away. It's just that there just hasn't been the interest.
No, I know. Yeah, just making the observation. That's all.
Is there a way to kind of find out from the clubs? I mean, I'm just interested to understand what type of attendance there is. Like, when you're talking about just a variation between 5 kids and 20 kids, that I'm just interested to understand. That I know that there could be 1 or 2 kids, which I think is great. I just was interested.
And that's the high school change,
right? Yeah,
On a
yeah.
daily basis, weekly basis, some kids involved in multiple sports and multiple clubs, so.
Sure. Just interested to see what kind of things are kind of popular and what maybe not. I mean, obviously, outdoor one isn't, but.
Heidi Dwark does an incredible job
Yeah.
with all those, so we could certainly invite her to come.
Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded and there's no more discussion. Roll call vote. Please wait for your name. Sean,
Aye.
Maura,
Aye.
Michelle E.
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Michelle B.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Thank you.
First word of it. Huh?
Yeah, that's.
Throw
It
it
threw
out.
me for a minute. Did you notice that? No, sorry. I was expecting Michelle to go
on
first.
this committee.
But that's okay.
It's usually at the end of the meeting.
We're flexible.
Yeah, And next time I'll twirl it around.
Keeping you on your toes, is what she's doing.
All right, so we are at new business. No, I'm sorry, superintendent's report, year-end updates.
Would you have more or?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Are you sure? I can always talk more.
Just fine. All set?
Yeah.
You all set, Eric? Good, thank you. So before we begin, just a couple things. I also want to echo thank you to our speakers that came tonight. That's important for us, not just to hear from you, but from all of our community, what people are feeling. So we heard tonight alone, just the opposites and just what people are feeling and thinking. So thank you for the speakers. Before I begin, can I just please take a moment to recognize our school committee member, Michelle Immersion, for her 9 years of dedication to the Hampton Wilbraham Regional School District.
Doing so well. Now you're gonna make me cry.
So all the days and nights and weekends and her commitment to the students and staff of our school district. She's joined tonight by her husband, Mark Immersion, who we also have to thank for sharing Michelle with us in our school district for the past 9 years as well, too. So we thank you, Michelle, and we thank you, Mark. Michelle, we can't thank you enough. We have some wonderful things over here we want to share with you later. The cupcakes are for later, I should say.
They're good ones too.
Just so you know,
I've never heard of a bad
while all of this is going
these
on,
are
Michelle's doing a year that all of us worked very hard with the pandemic. She was a second grade remote teacher in Springfield.
We got a fixed plaque for you, because I know there was an error made at 12 years. It really is 9 years. Not that we didn't want to give you credit for years, but we weren't sure about the overtime thing, so it's no.
Well, that
Also,
remote made it feel like 12.
There's a lovely plant for you. Thanks to Kate, we're gonna do flowers, and look, we figured a plant, you can plant that and make it more lasting for you as well.
That's right,
too.
I'll have it in my
But
garden. so.
Thank you very much.
No,
Michelle.
thank
Think
you.
of us every
Thank you,
day.
Michelle.
Thank you.
I will think of you every day. Thank you so much.
Anything?
No,
Speech?
I'm just, I'm trying not to cry, so I'm just.
Wow.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sadness.
And Michelle, the red and the cranberry bag, I should say, is from the Lower Pioneer Valley, which we know you shoot on them as well too. So that's a little
Okay,
party gift
Roland, yeah.
from them as well too. So, Katie, you all set with the video? Okay, great. So thank you for that. And that's not part of my superintendent's report. So I just want to go, I want to just
I
go
think she got
there.
nervous.
Sorry,
There was a
Councilor,
video.
today.
I know, I did, I'm like,
Yeah.
video, what kind of
Video
video?
of you.
Yeah, I wonder, all 9 years, yeah, right. Oh.
So I'm going to go a little out of order, and I appreciate this. While Kate's giving up the video, we have what here tonight? The Wilbraham Hamden Academic Trust that are joining us here tonight. And if I could have you, Stephen Webster and Krista Rogel, join us, who have done incredible work with the Wilbraham Hamden Academic Trust. They're part of my end of the year report. They've asked to join us and talk a little bit about what's taking place and how we're wrapping up this year and the plans for next year with Wilbraham Hamden Academic Trust.
Would you like to sit or stand?
We're good.
good.
You can stand. We'll make it quick for you
Yeah.
as well.
So I'm going to report on the recent grants that were awarded this year. This year was a little slow in receiving grants. Being a teacher myself, I know that we weren't sure exactly what was happening any day of the week. So that's understandable, but we hope to get more going forward. So we had 2 that were actually applied for in 2020 in the spring that we just kind of stopped because everything froze. So those 2, one was Breakout EDU at Wilbraham Middle School, and that was funded for $2,000. And it's a digital and physical game, like an escape room, and they were using the digital part this year, and they were able to, they'll be going forward with the physical game part of it in the fall. And then a playground communication board at Mile Tree was also funded for $320. So we just carried those over into this year because the people that applied still wanted to go with them.
Krista, I'm sorry. So that communication board at Mile Tree, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think the people that are even here tonight would sort of put you on the spot. Not to
Sure.
help you out with that as well too, but that's an incredible thing they're doing at Mile Tree and what they're doing for our students in the playground. there.
Sure. So Gina Roy applied for that grant, and it's for students at Mile Tree who are unable to speak using traditional means of communication. So it was like a board where they could, point to pictures or symbols so they could get the message across that they were, I want to play with you, or stop doing that, or, different ways to communicate, especially for the pre-K, K, and first grade students.
And there'll be a permanent fixture that's going to be put out in the playground at Mile Tree.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
put you on the
okay.
spot about
No,
that.
that's fine. I have
I think she's
all-
got her spreadsheet.
I was ready to back you up if you did. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. I've got it. Were there any questions on the breakout EDU?
Oh, that sounds cool.
It is really
Sounds
cool.
really
I have it at my school too. Kids love it. And then going forward into this year, robotics team at Wilbraham Middle School. We have funded this in the past week, so we only did a partial funding. And we funded $2,000 of that. And the ones that they wanted to purchase are actually going obsolete. So they were waiting until August to purchase them. So they'll be the most current ones. And
How much was that for?
that was 2,000. In March this year, a Minnetonka teacher applied for Native American guest speaker. She was going to do it for just a couple of classes that were studying that particular thing. But she ended up opening it up to the whole junior class. So they were all able to access the speaker. That was for $600. And at Wilbraham Middle School, we actually had this grant last year from a teacher who's no longer in the district, and because of the timing of it, the funds were never used. So John DeRocha asked if they could sort of push the money over into Project Lead the Way app creator devices, and that was for $2,400. And that'll be, I think, a new program with different modules, all like computer science related.
And that was Project Lead the Way that we heard in the program of studies from the middle school, from Wilbraham Middle and at Green Meadows.
So those were the grants. That was $7,320 total for this year. So in our grant letters, when we award them, we have we will forward the funds once the person who applied for them agrees to the terms of the grant, so that we can get the communication we need from the person, like pictures, little, like, how did your grant go? Nothing too fancy, but just so we have records for if we are ever audited from the state, and we need to have that. So once the person who applies says yes, and they agree to that, and that's it published in our letter now. We didn't have it there at first, but it's there. So then we will forward the funds to the district. And I recently sent Superintendent Ganem 2 communications, one for students, staff, families in the district, letting them know about the things I just told you, upcoming events, and just what we're all about. And then one for the staff members, so that they know the grant period is currently open. They can apply for grants anytime during the summer. We will have 3 grant periods again, as we have, well, this year we only had 2. The year before, we're kind of going on a trimester basis. And the dates are published in that letter, so teachers know when will be, like the grant cycle for approval.
So in full disclosure, as they do in my evaluation, is that those communications did not go out yet. I'm sorry. They will be going out tomorrow, if not on Monday of this week. So those have not gone out yet. I will get those out. Sorry about that. Stephen?
Yeah, just a couple quick updates. So last fall, to actually fund the grants that Crystal just talked about, last fall we did our silent auction. So normally we obviously do a gala every year, and that's usually our biggest event, anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 we raise there. Last fall, given obviously the pandemic and our challenges there, we did a virtual fundraiser, virtual silent auction. And so we ended up raising about $10,000, which was pretty amazing. So those dollars obviously go into into the trust, but also fund those grants that Crystal talked about. We will be having the gala this year. So we are at the starting gate at Great Horse on Friday, November 12th. So we're gonna do a Friday night, and it'll be a little bit of a different kind of spin on the event. We're hoping to get more community members, more supporters there versus a very, very formal event, which I have been in the past. So more to come out on that, but that's will be coming up. We're actually putting together a committee as part of the trust to actually work on that event going forward. Like, don't touch your phone during it.
Is there a theme to the party, or?
Right now, there's a meeting at 7:30, which I hope to make. But there's a theme of jewels. Was it jeans and jewels?
Oh.
Jeans and jewels instead of the normal black tie. But I think it'll be good. It'll be a lot of fun. It's a great location. It'll be open bar for the first couple hours, which would be even better. So hopefully get a more attraction of folks to join. The other thing that's really important though, is there's been a lot of board changes since the last time we were here. So Tina obviously had stepped down from the board and resigned a year ago. I took over as president. Chris has been along with us for a very long time as well. She's resigned this year as leading the grants committee, so she'll be still participating. We have, I'll go through this just quickly. Mike Stakowitz has stepped up. He's the vice president committee chair. Amanda Vasta has stepped up as secretary. So we have some new names to the list, which is great. Kevin Murray has stepped up as treasurer. We have an open position as the grants director and committee chair, which Chris is vacating. We have another position that we created, which is really a district liaison, working with the school committee, working with administration, and a position that's open right now. We have a resource development director, committee chair, Carolyn Balicki, and then our directors, Dan Joyce, Mark Atkin, Alex Ryan, and Melissa Fatsi. So a whole new board for the trust. So it's very exciting. But a lot to come this year.
Thank you for the work you guys have done this year. I know it was sort of a tough year for all of us, right? But you still supported us, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Are you still staying on or?
I will be there for the next year.
All right, good.
I told everybody this is my last year. Yeah.
So we got a year to convince you, right?
Yeah, you gotta get him to stay.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Something else after this.
Thank you both.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Remember.
Maybe, yeah, there you go.
All right. Stay.
Kate, you good?
Okay. Need to try that.
So
I may need
thank
a
you
minute.
both. So if you could bear with me as I.
That's me, sorry.
That I can show you a 2-minute video that Katie got about her team from the kindergarten remote teacher shared with their students at the end of the year. The book that she read for students is certainly appropriate, not only for her kindergarten students, but for all of us in our school district throughout this entire year and what we dealt with. This is only one example of some of the great events that took place with our remote classrooms for the end of the year. I think I shared with you some pictures that I think Julie Keefe sent. They did a big picnic out in the front of TWB for their end of the year. So there was unbelievable activities for our remote students. But this is one thing. I'm going to cut it off after a period of time, only because then she went on to individual student pictures as well too. And to get permission from Katie to show this, I just thought it was just so.
I knew you could do it. Written and illustrated by.
Hold on, I'm gonna share screen so everyone can see it, sorry. Alrighty.
Nancy Tillman. I knew you could do it. I knew that you could. Of everyone out there, I knew that you would. And wow, holy cow, I am telling you, kid, it wasn't easy, that thing that you did. Don't think I don't know of the gumption and grit and the backbone it took. It took quite a bit. But you dug in your heels and you set your sights high and you shook out your feathers and made that thing fly. You stared down the dragon. You made that ship sail. And today you're the star of your own fairy tale. You did it! You did it! Please say it out loud. You should be awesomely proud. I knew you could do it. And you know what's sweet? You're not even halfway up Victory Street. Oh, you'll be tumbled a battle or two, but you've got what it takes, you firecracker you. So when you get caught in the bramble and thicket, watch what you say to yourself, that's the ticket. Don't get hung up in the shouldas and oughts and wouldas and couldas and those thinky thoughts. Remember the battle you've already won. Lean into the wind.
Put your brave boots on. It won't be long till you're blazing new trails and climbing your way into new fairy tales. swinging through stars as if there's nothing to it. And guess what I'll say? I knew you could do it.
May you always remember, you can do hard things every day. You are amazing. Come on, let us hear you say it. Tell your families they are amazing too. We thank you for this year so much.
This is the good part, man.
20 minutes. It's an awesome video.
Okay, so if it goes on a little longer than we have time for. Okay. So stop it, or,
That's the best part.
I know.
so it,
I mean, the book was good too.
I
But-
just wanted to give you a sample of what some of these, our teachers did, in particular our remote teachers for the end of the year and things they did for making it special for our students as well too. And that book was just so fitting for what we've all dealt with this year. So it didn't just apply for the kindergarten, but also apply for all. So, great, thank you. So next, last day of school and sort of my update for year-end updates. The last day of school for students was June 16th and June 17th for our teachers. There are many celebrations that took place for the end of the year. The step-up ceremony that was both at Wilbraham Middle School and Green Meadows were two both really wonderful events. Green Meadows did theirs a little different. They had it in their building, and Wilbraham Middle had a drive-through. I know I saw Patrick, your son as well too. They did a really nice job. Two different ways of congratulating, stepping up our students. But congratulations to all our students who are moving on to the next grade in the Camden Wilbraham Regional School District. The third thing I just want to give you an update is our summer school programming. We're ready to start. It's going to begin on Tuesday, July 6th, and will run through Thursday, August 5th. Runs for 5 weeks. At Thornton W. Burgess at TWB, there'll be 74 students that will be attending there. At TWB will be the academic clinic for grades 2 through 12. The transition program will be there, 2 classrooms, and our Ingenuity credit recovery program for our general ed students will be there as well too. Again, starting Tuesday, July 6th, and run all the way to August 5th. At Mile Tree, we have 48 students that will be attending. There's a combination of our academic clinic that will be pre-K through 1, and then our intensive resource program will also be there for pre-K through 3. They'll also be running from July 6th to August 5th, so we're ready for that. Students are all enrolled. We're still looking for staff, so paras and teachers. This is just a call out, so if anyone is interested in working, we're still looking for that, but we're ready to begin on Tuesday, July the 6th. The next update I want to give you, and I should have spoken a little bit earlier about it, is the health and safety procedures from June through August 2021. You might have seen the notice that went out. The signs have also changed in the front doors of our school. So let me just go a little bit backwards of how we're dealing with this. The commissioner said in the fall of 2021 that there won't be a requirement at this point for us students to be, our staff to be wearing masks. At this point, also, he does not believe that there's going to have to be any social distance, and that will take place. Custodians are in the process of doing that system turnover right now. You're going to be seeing that they're going to be taking down the tape off the floors, those directional arrows, to start that summer cleaning up, washing and waxing the floors. What we're doing for summer school. Quite a different things. The commissioner really didn't give us a firm direction on how to handle this, and you might be seeing in different communities, they're handling it different for summer school. After consultation with Terry and Kiara and our Department of Public Health, we feel that the best way that we're going to handle this for summer school only right now is that students will be wearing masks during summer school, and the adults that will be working with students will be wearing masks as well too. We're a little concerned about the uptick that's taking place in our country right now, so we want to maintain that. If adults are working with adults and doing the professional learning, they don't have to wear a mask. And again, that's all if they are vaccinated. If people want to wear masks, they certainly can in our buildings, but as of today, the signs have been switched over that you do not have to wear a mask if you are vaccinated. And we're not going around asking who's been vaccinated, who's not, like we do in this country. It's sort of an honor system that we're doing that. Any questions on how we're handling that? Great. So the last thing I just want to talk to you a little about is our end of the year convocation that took place with our teachers on the last day of school. We brought a guest speaker in named Maria Sorois. She's a wellness expert that works out of Lenox, Mass. Kate in the Kripalu Center. And if you give me a few minutes, I'd just like to go over just really quickly what her message was to our entire school district, teachers, custodians, paras, admin assistants, secretaries. Everyone was part of this end of the year convocation. She talked about two things. I think Kate's going to be putting something up. She talked about living in the pond or living in the swamp. And when you live in the pond, so I'll give an example. You either live in the pond or you live in the swamp. And when you live in the swamp, it's that negativity that takes place. What are the things that aren't happening right in our district? What are the things that aren't happening that are well in our life? When you live in the pond, it's the successes. What's happening each and every day in our school district that we should be celebrating, that we should be happy about. What's happening successfully in our life each and every day that we should be happy for. I know I'm guilty of it myself as well. At the end of every night, before I put my head in the pillow, okay, what could I have done better? And really focusing on sometimes not necessarily always the pond. And her experience to us is we have 30 days of just thinking the positive things that are taking place and focusing on those will make you a better person and a successful person as well. It was just a really great opportunity for our staff and district to come together. It was an end of the year convocation. I think everybody, and I'll be completely honest with you, by June 17th, I think everyone was tired of listening to me and I wanted someone else to come in to speak, and she really did an unbelievable job. I'm going to send you the site that she did so you can literally see in here. We sent out an evaluation afterwards, Gina Khan did, and it was all really positive things. We got some great feedback from our teachers. So it's just about going through our day. And I sometimes think we do it ourselves, that we live in that swamp where we're always like, what we're not doing successfully in our school district. And there are so many things that in the pond we should. One of the questions that was asked by one of our staff members, how about if I'm living in the pond and people start pulling me into the swamp, and how do we handle that? And it was just great dialogue that was taking place amongst our staff for the last day of school. And that was part of it was a 90-minute piece of our professional learning for our school district. And that's it. That's my end of the year update.
I saw all this and I'm thinking, oh, we're going to be.
I got nervous as a control.
Sorry about that. And that's my, you guys are too close to me. That's why you don't see that's in my notes here. So that's my end of the year sort of update for the Hampden Wilbraham districts from the superintendent, unless anyone has questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
All right, we're moving on to Superintendent's 2021 year-end evaluation. Thank you very much, everyone, for the thoughtful and really well thought out messages that you put down about the superintendent's progress, where our school district is going, and what we can do to improve. I'm just going to read you the end of the year evaluation. Just know that Bill Bontempi and Maura Ryan and myself were on the subcommittee. I was the chair of the subcommittee, and we had a robust discussion about this, and everyone put in their own draft of how they saw the goals and the progress made towards standards. And this is the composite that I put together. This is the introduction. The evaluation of the superintendent begins and ends with the school committee members. As a body, we approve his goals for the year, and as a body, we end the year by evaluating his progress towards meeting his goals, along with the summative performance on standards. Maura, Bill, and I made up the superintendent evaluation subcommittee. I want to thank the subcommittee for the many hours they put in compiling and synthesizing this end of cycle summary evaluation, a job made easier by Maura's spreadsheet of the data and Bill's first draft of step 5, add evaluator comments. Thanks also goes to the entire school committee for their individual assessments of the superintendent's job performance. It is the subcommittee's hope that in reading this evaluation, every school committee member can hear their voice and recognize their input. Finally, a huge thank you goes to Kate Belsky, the hardest working person in this process. Comment. All right.
Her cupcakes are coming. Anyone else you want to recognize in there first?
No. Okay, goals. Based on the data compiled by the subcommittee, the superintendent showed significant progress on each of the 3 aggregate goals set by DESE. And by the way, at the end of this reading, we will have time for discussion. So make notes of what you want to bring up. Those aggregate goals were professional practice, student learning, and district improvement. Standards. Standard 1, instructional leadership. In this area, several members expressed an interest in the superintendent providing more transparency with regards to data sharing and individual school goals. Members also commented on his style of leadership, which is to engage people in a way that promotes buy-in. He was encouraged to use that engagement skill to reach out into the community and broaden his comfort zone. Evidence showed that within the evaluative process, educators received positive feedback. However, there remains challenges that, if not addressed, will continue to hamper our district's progress, i.e. the lack of a defined curriculum, lack of district goals, unclear process for decision-making, and the significant management turnover in the director of curriculum, instruction, and professional development position. Standard 2, management and operations. The superintendent and his administrative team have done an outstanding job during this pandemic year, instituting protocols and procedures that address students and staff's needs for a safe, healthy, and socially and emotionally secure school environment. The superintendent utilized a collaborative process to accomplish the above, which was evident by the working group he convened to help write the district return to learning plan. Additionally, with the onboarding of Mr. Osborne, coupled with the streamlining of the budget process and the superintendent's own efforts to expand his knowledge of fiscal systems, the budget process has become a smooth, collaborative undertaking. Members were concerned, however, with the management of recruiting, hiring, developing, and retaining staff. There were concerns over the lack of diversity amongst the staff, the hiring process not being clearly defined, and again, the large number of staff turnovers, especially in the administration level. Members also expressed concern regarding the section of this standard that addressed law, ethics, and policy. The most pervasive of these discussions these discussions surrounded Mr. Ganem's self-reported ethical violation in hiring 2 family members to work as teachers in our district, one in the summer program and one throughout the year. The superintendent's evaluation subcommittee agrees that this represented a real, albeit unintentional, violation of ethical standards. The superintendent should have been cognizant that his actions represented a conflict of interest and should have been acutely aware of the laws surrounding this breach. However, when suggested that his actions may have violated the conflict of interest law, the superintendent took immediate action to remedy the situation and to self-report. Finally, one community member, looking at the larger question of effective management and operations, asked the following: "This is a good district. How do we get to great?" Standard 3, family and community engagement. As has been the case historically, Mr. Ganem does a great job with the communication standard. This standard taps into his greatest strength. That is his ability to engage easily with people by showing genuine interest, caring, warmth, empathy, and humor. The superintendent is a great communicator, and this year, in addition to communicating COVID information, he has done more detailed communication surrounding school events. The next logical step would be for the superintendent to lead the way in improving the district website so users can find updated information easily, clearly, and quickly. Members also shared some areas for improvement. It is important to communicate with all stakeholders in a timely way, whether that be in response to phone calls, emails, messages, letters, etc. Responses to these types of communications are as important as face-to-face interactions and/or robocalls. The superintendent needs to communicate earlier regarding large changes, thereby creating an environment where people can freely ask questions. Standard 4, professional culture. Some members felt that the superintendent needed to be more assertive, be willing to take a stand on certain issues, and be more adroit in using conflict resolution skills to lower the threshold of conflict. The superintendent strives to maintain a respectful relationship with everyone he meets. That being said, there are issues that necessitate the district leader to take a stance and defend that position. We are a fractured district. Leading the way by employing conflict resolution skills is one way to make us a stronger, more unified district. Members also encourage the superintendent to be more forward-thinking and innovative, someone who thinks out and acts outside the box, and someone who can learn from both lost opportunities and jobs well done. In regard to the continuous learning strand, members reflected that we still do not have a solid method to report out student data and the ways in which we are assuring a high standard of education and achievement, something that has been asked for year over year. The need for a robust professional culture is even more important as we strive to formulate a strategic plan, determine ways in which to support diversity, equity, and inclusion, transition from hybrid remote learning to primarily brick and mortar schools, and maintain high standards at all levels. Conclusion. There is much work to be done, but we can take the time to celebrate the work the superintendent and his team have done throughout this time of pandemic. A discussion about Mr. Ganem's performance would not be complete without mentioning his accomplishments in charting the course and manning the helm of our district during the COVID-19 pandemic. Prior to the start of the 2020-2021 school year, the school committee tasked him with creating a plan to return to in-person instruction. Despite very restrictive state mandates on social distancing and the use of personal protective equipment, Superintendent Ganem and his team had to devise, implement, evaluate, and continually modify an entirely new way of educating students through the model of hybrid learning. In addition, he had to outfit the school district with devices, technical support, and make accommodations for connectivity for all district students as a part of this plan. This was a Herculean task, and one that cannot be overemphasized. Through collaboration with his building principals, administrators, and teachers, he endeavored to fulfill the committee's mandate. Throughout the school year, there were a number of course corrections that were implemented to improve educational learnings to our offerings to our students. These modifications should be viewed favorably as demonstrating a willingness of the administration and educational leadership teams to hear outside perspectives and adjust accordingly. Overall, Mr. Ganem continues to grow in his position in no small part due to his willingness to push himself beyond what is expected, as witnessed by the large number of goals he chose to complete. By setting a greater number of goals, he put more pressure on himself and may, as a result, spread himself too thin to accomplish them all. However, the school committee agrees that he should be lauded for his efforts towards improvement and his self-confidence. Lastly, when evaluating his goals and standards of achievement, his overall summative performance rating is proficient with a rating of moderate on his impact on student learning. We're open for discussion.
I have a couple of comments. Number one is on the first page, professional practice, student learning, and district improvement. He actually submitted 5 goals. 1 professional practice, 1 student learning, 3 district improvement. According to the scoring, he actually met 2 of the 3 district improvement goals. So I would put that into this document.
No, this is the DESE notation, significant progress on the 3 aggregate goals set by DESE. So DESE takes those 5 goals and makes them into an aggregate, and you get a rating for professional practice, you get a rating for student learning, and a rating for district improvement. on the front page on section 1. So those are the ones from Desi.
So we didn't, but but I would say that when we want to include the fact that he had done 5 goals, we mentioned it on the second page, but then
Yeah, it's in his evaluation, but for the form we sent to Desi, it's the 3 aggregate goals that we have to quantify.
3, yes, I understand that, but I'm saying he submitted 5 goals to us. This is his evaluation, so that's what the discussion is for. So we can add information as, you know, as ad libitum to make sure that we encompass the entire discussion. So that would be one suggestion I would put in. You don't want to put it in, that's fine, it's reflected in the minutes. Second change. What's that?
Can I just jump in real quick? I would encourage reacting. So, right, and I get it, Desi's saying this is their
Yeah,
form,
we
but
can
it's
put it in.
for Al and it's from us. So if that's something that we should have in there, we should
Absolutely.
add that and annotate it somewhere within. Sorry.
Third. Thanks, Pat.
I agree.
All right. Second is a couple of things, just small changes when you're writing the fourth, like if you go to management and operations, the 4th sentence, the 6th sentence, it says members also express concern. I would put some members. I don't want it to be confused that there was a unanimous discussion about that. There are other places where it says some members, but I would just say that the 4th and the 6th sentence in management operations should have that, as well as in family communication standards again for 4th sentence in standard 3. And then finally, in standard 4, there is a standalone sentence which I think needs to be modified. It says we are a fractured district. I think a more appropriate, I didn't write that, a more appropriate way to phrase that would be one member has opined that we are a fractured district. You're stating that as if it's fact and it's opinion by one of the members. Okay. I noticed in your editing that you had deleted a couple of things that I had submitted to you initially. It wasn't my understanding that during the meeting I was going to submit a document and that you guys would create, if there was any additions that you wanted to make for it. At the end of the meeting, we sat around, we talked about what we wanted to cover, which issues we wanted to cover. I wrote up the summary. There were 2 things that were omitted, and I want to make sure that they're clear for the record. Number 1 is in the search for curriculum instruction and professional development. I know that Patrick had brought it up at the last meeting. We had a pretty robust discussion in the evaluation subcommittee. And I want the record to reflect that, that there was a discussion about possibly looking with administration as to the reasons for the high rate of turnover in that position. Second one was with regards to Mr. Ganem's ethical violation. And again, I had included a paragraph in there talking about the fact that there were members of this committee who were notified, and I think Maura, you were the one that said it, you were notified of his daughter working for the district in July. So Mr. Ganem was notified in March that there was a potential ethical violation, but I found out that we actually knew about this in July, that a constituent had brought that forward. I think in his evaluation, that's significant. I think that should be included because it's not fair to judge him on his actions when had members of this committee stood up and said something, it probably would have mitigated, if not eliminated, the ethical violation altogether.
That's untrue. That's untrue because by the time I'd already heard about it from a constituent who was making me aware of a remote class, the teacher had already been hired. And I apologize, as I said during that meeting, that I was new to the school committee at that point. I didn't know all the policies, which I have since learning about the second instance. I would say I'm probably one of the most diverse, informed people about the policies in this district because of that situation. and understanding what our policy is, that we had a policy, the employee handbook, the student handbooks, what the master general law for a lot of that stuff was, because I wasn't aware at the time. I didn't think it was an issue because we had a director of human resource. So I presumed that that's what that process was. I didn't learn that that wasn't how the process worked until I heard about the second instance.
And did you
So
tell
I'm going to stop right there for a second. Several months after that, I learned of it, and I immediately called the lawyer, our lawyer, Sean Sweeney. Unfortunately, I did not realize, I called, I emailed, I didn't get any answer for quite some time, and I did not realize he had succumbed to COVID. And so by the time I did get to him, one of the things that he has urged, and I've mentioned this in school committee meetings, and I will say right now, he urges us to have this discussion in executive session with all of this discussion. In the executive session, when the Attorney General gives his ruling. And so that's when I took it out. It is at the suggestion of council, and I'm going to go with that.
So if that's the case, then it shouldn't be mentioned at all in his evaluation then.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you're saying that we shouldn't be mentioning it and we should only be discussing it in executive session, I'm fine with that, but it should not be part of his public evaluation.
It is part of his public evaluation because he chose to self, what do you call it?
Report.
Cheryl, can we ask, so when is the student DESI?
30th of June.
Is there a way to get an extension so that we can get a ruling
From
from
Sean?
Sean Sweeney? And so in general, it may be a scenario, I think the timing is unfortunate because we don't have it buttoned up. And if we had it buttoned up before the end of the year,
Yeah.
for the review, it may not be a part of the review at all. So I would ask if we have the ability to extend, and that way it either goes or it stays, depending upon what council says and what we get from the state.
Patrick, if I could just add a little, so respectfully, none of this goes to the Department of Education. What goes is just the standard performance. So what will be, what you said earlier, it's how you perform on your goals and your standards is what's reported. So like every evaluation that we do from our principals, from our teachers into superintendents linear, we don't give all those written narratives. You just give how they reported out on each one of those standards, whether proficient, exemplary, needs improvement. That's what's reported. It's a spreadsheet that we give to the Department of Education. So none of this verbiage is really anywhere associated with that that's reported, just for clarification.
And then also, just keep in mind, when an attorney gives us a recommendation, it's just that, it's a recommendation. It's not the law, okay? He can recommend us, this is how this could be viewed, this is how this could be viewed, that could be viewed, whatever. So I would like to see Attorney Sweeney's recommendation, rather than just be given the summary of it. And also, if we can, this is interesting. So just for point of clarification, so Mara, you found out in July, but you didn't tell anyone, right? You just knew about it and you weren't sure of the laws and stuff like that, or did you
I'm
report it
not
to the
participating
chair?
in this conversation again. I'm not participating in this conversation.
This is the first time I'm having this conversation.
I'm not participating in this conversation again.
So let me address your point. My understanding from Attorney Sweeney was that doing it in executive session as opposed to in public session
Right.
protects the superintendent's right to be represented by counsel. You mentioned that you have the right to be represented by counsel, and that it makes no sense at all to have any of these discussions until the Attorney General sends in his ruling as to whether any violation was done. And so I'm going to go with that. And
What about just the facts? Like, I've never had this conversation before. I've never had this conversation with Mara. I don't understand why
But
she doesn't want to have it again.
we did
But I
have
would
it
like
at
to
a
know-
school committee meeting, and at which point I said, no, we're not having it.
With
because-
Mara?
No, I had this conversation in a public open meeting on Monday night.
Yeah.
That it was public, it was posted, you could have listened to that meeting on Monday.
I was working.
I don't think it's fair that I have to keep getting subjected to the same questions. I've already acknowledged the knowledge that I've had. It
So
wasn't-
you said in the meeting on Monday that you found out about it, you reported it to Patrick. And that was the only thing that you
I
said.
wouldn't say that it was a report. I became aware of information. I wasn't really sure about the information. At that point, I didn't want to go asking people because I didn't know. So being new to the school committee,
The only question is as of July, it was on somebody's radar screen, correct?
I mean, I guess you could say that.
As of July, it was on somebody's radar screen. So the question that I have is why did it take 8 months for it to reach the ears of our superintendent? And I say this because in a well-functioning school district, the superintendent and the school committee need to be working as a team, not adversaries, right? And if we are withholding that information from him, then there can only be 2 explanations. Number one is the person who heard the information didn't understand the significance of it, which would be bad enough. Or number 2, chose not to report it in order to let him continue to do something that would be damaging to his position or his career. I don't think there's another option that sits there, but it concerns me greatly because after your revelation at the meeting on Monday, where you informed us that you were made aware of it back in July and then told me that you had reported it to Patrick, I just need to know. We were told by Patrick that he found out from a constituent in December.
December 3rd.
So I don't know whether this was an in-passing conversation. I don't really understand. I mean, because now everybody's treating us like this is a really, really big deal, which it is. But we were in a position in July where we could have actually curtailed it while it was going on. And that was the first position,
And
not even including his wife's position as a reading
And I
specialist.
think this makes sense if we're judging the school committee performance, but it makes no sense if we're judging the superintendent's performance. The superintendent made an ethical choice, albeit for whatever reason, he self-reported himself to the Attorney General. Our council has said that we should wait until that ruling comes out and then have an executive session discussion about it. Definitely, this affects how our own body treats information, but it does not affect his evaluation. We're moving on.
Can I just want one word though on standard 2, when it refers to 1 in the summer program and 1 throughout the year. I believe it should be maybe during, because I believe she
Tell me where
stopped.
you are in
I'm
standard
in, so I'm on standard 2.
Yeah.
Probably about 2/3 of the way down.
Okay.
In parentheses, it says 1 in the summer program and 1 throughout the year. I don't believe it was throughout the year. I think she stopped as soon as he was aware of it. She stopped doing that position. So maybe we could say during the year instead of
Yes.
throughout.
Thank you.
Because.
How about
it-
during a portion of the year?
Okay, right. It was not all the time. I think it was from December to March. So if we could just make that adjustment. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I just want to commend Superintendent Ganem. I mean, I'm not sure from the timeline, and I don't know what happened, but if we knew about it in July and then in December, and then we told it in March, but when he learned about it in March and realized the error that he had made, not only did his wife stop immediately, but he also self-reported himself immediately. So his actions actually, I think, put us to shame on how long it took us to act. And his action was very expedient and profound. And I think something like that should be listed.
And I would add to that we are still having problems filling positions for our summer program. And I'm pretty sure, Al, that your daughter and your wife didn't go in and buy a summer home together on the money that they made during those programs.
It's not the issue of the money. It's you know.
Right. No, I'm making a joke.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And although it was a long stretch of time, I want to reiterate that school committee members who found out about it, reported it when they felt it was reportable. I mean, want to make sure I get,
Thought we
I
weren't
say
talking
this right. Excuse me. just a
So
second.
can I just,
Yeah.
so there's a.
Al, don't
quote-
you hate
there's-
everybody's
there's a
talking
quote
about
I-
you?
This is a humbling experience, and not that I haven't heard a little bit about this earlier, because this is a public type of thing we deal with, but there's a quote I use all the time. We judge our man on the best day, or we judge our man on the worst day. And I gotta respectfully say, like, I know we're focused on this. I admitted that I made a mistake. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we took care of it. But I think we need to focus on other things that have taken place. And I hope you're not judging me just on this one error that we made, because then shame on us as an educational system that we're focusing on mistakes and not on the positive. Because it feels to me right now we're in the pond. And I get it. I made a mistake. I acknowledge that. Can we swamp? Thank you. We're in the
That's where you
swamp.
want it.
Can we get in the pond a little bit here? Can we just move from that swamp to the pond? Because I feel like we're doing exactly what I asked us not to do. Please.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is let's move to the pond, because I don't think anybody was trying to cover up anything.
No.
Either on the school committee side or on the superintendent's side, I don't think there was a cover up. There was a lack of understanding.
Agreed. On my case. Anyone else want to say anything in the pond side at all? Our swamp, feel free. That's the time. This is the time to.
Yeah, I would like to talk a lot more about this, but I don't think now's the time. I think we should set time in the future to just discuss the timeline, discuss what happened, and how better, if something like this comes down in the future, that we should act as a body.
Future agenda item.
Yeah. Not as a pointing fingers thing, but a learn from our mistakes, admit our mistakes, and then let's just move on, because we make mistakes as a body. We do not make mistakes as individuals in the body.
Any pond?
I think you did a fabulous job in what was an incredibly challenging, difficult time for not just Hampton, Wilbraham, but like the world. And so you're to be commended for your leadership and everything.
I really wasn't trying to go all on the pond. I appreciate this one too.
But it's.
We're in
I
there
just
though,
had
Al,
to
we're in
move
the
it a little
pond.
bit. I just had to move it along a little, sorry.
Okay.
The one thing I would ask too is on here with this is just to challenge you to, I've heard from a lot of people in the community about, from everybody in the administration, is getting the reply back, getting some information back. I understand you guys are up to your necks in it and stuff like that, but I would like to see maybe a goal for next year of being maybe a 48-hour or 1 business day or 2 business day or something like that. Any communications would be responded to in a period of time. Now, I know that can be difficult, but it's a really beautiful, measurable, deliverable.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So if I could just say, if you would. So Patrick, I know you mentioned that. So are we, with it not changing the evaluation overall, I used, never mind the verbiage, I think you can work on that. I'd like to get my data into the Department of Education for all my principals, for all our teachers. We have that June 30th, so it's not affecting, none of the verbiage goes in, but the rating on the standards, are we comfortable with still moving forward with that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay,
There's no verbiage.
good, that's right. So if I could just, I'm sorry, I just want to thank the school committee for the reflective evaluation. I haven't been an educator for over 30 years, and every day I try to better myself as the educational leader, so I can provide a better educational system for our students and staff. Good to great, all day long, Jim Collins, and I get that. And that's something I strive. I appreciate your honest feedback. This certainly has been a year like no other, and I certainly couldn't have done it without everybody's guidance, and I mean that. Your school committee, you have 3 major roles: policy, budget, and superintendent's evaluation. And all of them are monumental tasks. My evaluation done by school committee and the subcommittee entails a lot of work and reflection on the years that have gone by. Like I said, the quote, judge a man on his best day or judge a man on his worst day. And I think I've heard it from both ends. And I appreciate that. I want to hear that. I want to hear what I'm doing well and where I need to improve on. I just want to say this last thing. When in my role in previous as director of curriculum and professional learning in Worcester Public Schools, one of the things I was in charge with was we were a level 4 district. And one of the things that I'd be looking at in that role would be looking at the role of the evaluation of how teachers did, the evaluation of how principals did, and the performance of our students. So if you bear with me for a second, what it was that if everybody was proficient as an educator in that school, if the principal got a proficient evaluation, but the kids were still needs improvement, there was a gap there. Something was missing there, because it should be linear from school committee all the way down to our teachers, evaluations as well too. If everyone's being successful up here, then our students should be successful down there. I totally appreciate the evaluation you gave me, the proficient. I would rate myself. I think I rated myself lower on multiple of those of the standards that I gave you guys as well too. But I need to let you know that there is not a correlation between my evaluation and the work that our teachers did this year. So it was exemplary, the work that our teachers did. So although in my previous role, I had to make sure, like, why wasn't that matching? Please don't look for a match this year, because my goals of being proficient and my evaluation of being proficient, our teachers were exemplary, and I need to make sure you understand that as well too. Okay, so thank you for the feedback, and I certainly am a reflective person, and we'll try to do better as a superintendent in the years to come.
Thank you, Al.
Okay, July meeting date.
Oh. So we're looking at meetings for July, which is our next one to come, because we have Lisa Murray that we have to involve in this process as well too, which is, and I'm not texting or emailing, I'm looking at my calendar right now. We appreciate that. So
The 8th.
does the 8th work for everybody to have our first one? I'm just being mindful of the holiday. Usually it's the first Thursday in July, but that's right at the back of the holiday, or right in front of the holiday of July 4th. Perfect. So is the 8th work for everyone?
Yep.
Patrick.
No, it doesn't work for you.
That week or just that 8th?
The 8th, I could do the 7th. I can't do the 8th, so.
I'm actually not working that week, but
If we
I
go a little bit later, I can do the 7th. I just can't do a 5 o'clock, but
let's do the 7th.
How about a 6 on the 7th?
what's that?
Oh,
How about a 6 PM meeting on the 7th?
How about 7th?
That's hard. I'm coming all the way from Amherst. all the way from
7,
Hadley.
would 7 be better?
7 would be good.
7 on the
would be-
7th?
7.
July 7th, Michelle.
Sorry, not me.
Why are you
Sorry.
doing
I don't know why I'm chiming in. It would be great. Yes,
What are you
sorry.
doing on the 7th?
Yeah.
So July 7th at 7 o'clock will be our next school committee meeting. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
That's correct.
Right.
That's right. Yep. And we'll let Lisa Murray to be aware of that as well too. And I think if we do that 7 o'clock time frame, that will work for everybody as well too. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, subcommittee updates, Lower Pioneer Valley Education Collaborative.
Okay, so the collaborative met for the last time this year, last Wednesday, the 16th. And I just wanted to share, well, I tried to send you the first time, it didn't work, I sent it the second time. So we as a district are getting back a dividend of $174,000, $174,377. So you can use that towards the VOAG tuition. You cannot use it towards anything you get reimbursed. Obviously, you know that from this past year, right? So that was, and the other thing I wanted to tell you was the total assessment next year for FY 2022 is 2.09%. Okay, it hasn't changed since the January, and that COLA has been built into the budget. So that's
Can I ask you a question, Michelle? So
sure.
the money that we got back from, what was it?
It was
For the transportation, right? We got, was it 180,000? Right?
148 last year.
No, last year was 148,
yeah.
842, 40.
Remember, because we were up around 180, and then it was the furloughing of the
Right.
bus drivers that was the driver for us, because it was like 180 and change, and then all of a sudden it like whittled down to like 148. We're like, wait a minute, what happened to the 180?
So I'm just looking at it saying, so we had a full year where we had kids driving buses, and we're getting back 170,000 now? But in a year when we had no kids taking any buses, we got 140,000 back?
I don't think that was the dividend. This
No.
is the dividend though.
This is
right?
the
So that's
dividend that
separate
you get
from-
back as a portion.
Yeah.
This is this year's, this is the FY 21 dividend distribution. So
So
this
of all
is
the-
money you're getting back.
So of all the
Oh,
programs, it's
right.
not just,
Right.
transportation, it's
No.
all of the programs from the
Everything.
collaborative, and
Right.
then this is the dividend.
And it's based on your usage of all the different thing. So,
programs.
right,
Yeah,
so,
but it just seems surprising to me that
I
the money
think
is
one
more.
was transportation and this is the dividend.
Right,
So I
this
think
is
if we look at our
different.
Dividend number for FY '20,
Did we have
it's
dividends?
different than.
the dividend for last year was 148, 842.40. That was the dividend distribution last year.
So it's less than it was this year.
Last year's was, yes, because, well, you gotta think, how many
How many kids
CTEC
didn't go
program,
into
right, we
programs?
had from what, mid-March, April, May, June,
Right.
where you didn't have kids going to programs. This year, CTEC kids were going right from the beginning.
So you're saving on staff.
So
right?
now, what about did we get a credit back? Because there were a couple of a couple of bus routes that got combined. So we shouldn't have had to pay for as many buses if they were combining routes. And we also,
Right, so, and that's what the dividend distribution is based on, I thought it was programs and it's your utilization of everything, whether it's programs, whether it's transportation, it's your portion of what
The
you
one,
use.
yeah, the 148 that you saw last year, that was an assessment based out, because remember, the pandemic hit in the middle of the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
mid-March.
this year, we had an entire year that was planned on a hybrid model, so they had budgeted for that. Okay, whereas this time, or as last year,
Yeah.
it was March, and then all of a sudden, everything shut down.
because we also started later too. So that's why I
They stuck to the
wasn't
budget.
sure how it's gonna work out. I was just interested to see what the end would be.
So two things, we did 170 days this year, so there's a difference there. And to Mara's point, you're probably referring to the connected message that we're going out probably on a daily basis. We're merging buses, where I spoke to Roland about that, and any routes that were combined where we're not charged those routes.
Right,
Okay. That's good.
okay, all right, so and it'll meet, the collaborative will meet in August, so whoever becomes the representative, it'll be in August. Okay, August 19th, I think.
We don't have to change the name.
I'll lean back so you can fill her in on that.
The nameplate's so much easier that way.
Just take the E and make it into a B, you know?
All I gotta do. I'm just gonna lean back, lock my ears.
Okay.
Michelle, you're up next for policy.
Okay, all right, for policy. So we met Tuesday. We made some great inroads on the policy. So I want to read, we had, thanks to Maura's diligence, we had in regards to question and searches, the JIH. We looked to, it was the Sharon Public Schools, and we as a subcommittee, this was the language that we want to add to our policy. So I'll read it to you because I'm not sure you have it. It says, when law enforcement officials find it necessary to question students under 18 years of age during the school day or during extracurricular activities, a parent/guardian must be present. Okay?
Sounds great.
Does that sound, all right, so that will be, when you see the next one, it will have that component.
And the guardian can be a representative from the school district or not?
No, it
No,
should be a
no, it has.
demographically
Right,
related. So when they fill out their enrollment
Okay.
paperwork, whoever is listed
Whoever's
as.
listed as
parent or
parent.
guardian,
Okay.
yes.
So we made
Right.
that change. That will be coming to you in July.
Okay.
The other part that someone had asked about streamlining student organizations. So we took out, there were two subheadings. We had student organizations, we had student organizations / high school. We took out the student organizations high school. We shifted around some of the language. So, and my notes are, So this is what I think, well, Maura was going to.
So it says student organizations in the district shall be encouraged when they meet the criteria of contributing to student self-esteem and performance. And then we were adding some of the verbiage from the
down
bottom
below.
paragraph by the high school, in addition to the above
Right.
requirements.
This
And the
part.
HWRCL club organizations, the principal is responsible, I'm sorry, the principal is responsible for determining that the purpose of a student organization is related to, it'll be the curriculum, contributes to student self-esteem and performance. Student self-esteem, performance, should operate within the framework of state statutes, school committee policies, and administrative procedures. And then it has what wording we had in there. It just took out that student organization and high school piece.
Right, and we just rearranged some of the language and also putting in the cross references. Okay, for hazing, social media, acceptable use. Okay, And in the last part, it was, let's see, the principal is authorized to deny requests by unauthorized student organizations desiring to meet or form in a particular school. The principal shall inform the group of the reasons for the denial. The students and or group may submit a written request to the appropriate district administrator for review of the principal's decision. And we wanted that section to be added to, it was the second to the last paragraph. The faculty or designated adult advisor must attend every meeting of the student organization, whether conducted on school premises or at another location. And then we would add the section I read previously about the principals authorized to deny requests. So the appeal process is at the end of it. And then there was one more.
For the final reading, our next meeting,
Right.
after we reorganize, I'll make sure we have the written format. We had the meeting earlier this week and I didn't have a chance.
Sorry, it
to
was
speak in.
Tuesday. So it will be there for your next, and I think we'd also said it was going to be a second reading because we changed so much of the language.
Yes.
Correct? Okay, so when you read in July, second reading, and the other one we said, I don't think we were changing much on it because it had to do with it was on JHD, exclusions and exemptions from school attendance. The statement that was in question was probably about second to the last. Says not being a resident of the district and the district has opted not to participate in the school choice law. And someone was asking if we are participating, we have school choice students, wouldn't that affect it? But the school choice law, Maura looked it up,
We have the option to
Right.
participate or
right.
If we don't have enough space, we have the
Right.
option to not participate in school choice.
Right, if you
For a
don't have
certain
the-
grade because of how we do it.
So
That's why it's not
the
school
law
choice.
supports
Yeah, it's
Right,
not school
so
choice, it's
just-
school choice law.
Yep,
Right.
right, perfect.
So just
So-
want to make sure you understood that.
So
Thank
that wasn't getting changed, but again, that'll be brought for a second reading. Well, actually, that one could be a third reading
Mhm.
because we're not changing it.
Yep.
So I think those were the ones that we went over during our meeting. Was there anything else, ladies? No, I think those were the ones that we discussed at our meeting, so. Okay,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you for doing that.
Okay, curriculum subcommittee, our curriculum subcommittee went over the curriculum priority survey that's going out to teachers this summer in response to wanting a more robust curriculum and seeing where our curriculum is right now and what are the needs. It's going to the teachers who will get back to us on in some In July, what I'd like you to think about is your responsibility in terms of the goals. Communication goal is pretty much everybody's responsibility, but it'll be, that discussion will be led by the chair and the vice chair, who will be newly elected at that point. Educational goal is curriculum subcommittee.
Is this something we're doing on the 7th?
If there's room, we'll look at the agenda. If there's room on the 7th, we'll do it on the 7th. Otherwise, we'll do it the second one. But I'd like to do it on the 7th to get a good start to the year.
So the 7th is my meeting at the beginning, right? Before we go in there, so absolutely, we could certainly have a conversation with school committee goals. I will, yes.
Excellent. Fiscal responsibility is members of the finance and operations subcommittee responsibility. And policy is the members of the policy subcommittee. So we may be taking on new roles at that point, but the old roles call for a readout on how you get on the goals. Finance and operations, anything, Joe?
Nothing new to report.
Okay. Consent agenda, secretary's report, approval of minutes.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Can we just
Roll
read
call
out
vote.
the donation one? please?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the young lady that spoke to us in a.
Brianna?
Correct.
Brianna?
Would love to read that one out, please.
I am pleased to report that the Hampden Wilbraham Regional School District have received a special donation, and per policy, the school committee votes to accept these generous gifts. As is customary, please acknowledge and accept the following contributions. Brianna Brown for Wilbraham Middle School to the band program and in the amount of $800. Very generous, and we thank you,
Thanks.
Ms. Brown.
So we have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? All right, roll call vote, Sean.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Michelle B. Aye. Bill.
Aye.
Michelle B.
Aye.
Cheryl, aye. Maura.
Aye.
Okay, so move.
If I can make just jump in here. So I was just informed that my son's Little League, the Wilbraham Falcons came in first in the U9 league. So they have a bye for the World Series or the regional series. And I guess that game's on Saturday. So I'm very. It's probably going to be here over.
Wilbur Fenway, Wilbur Fenway.
Yeah.
Hey, but
Yeah, Polo
the
Park, right?
Minnetonka
By the way,
the,
a great
field of
visit.
lacrosse, right?
Yep.
The Minnetonka lacrosse team just made it. Is it states?
It'd be Shrewsbury in the
Yeah.
western state, the central western Mass finals on Friday night against Long Meadow.
Some excited seniors
Right.
that are gonna go out with a bang.
Where's that?
Long Meadow High.
Oh, okay.
One thing I did want to bring up, and you reminded me with Brianna Brown, the Partners for Youth Coalition is, I believe, buying an instrument for the band. There's something in the law that states the coalition can't give money to the district, but they could give something of value that is necessary. So they're going to find out from John DeRocha and Brianna's with him on planning this and get a band, at least one band instrument for
Oh, great.
the middle school band. So that will add to our $800 donation. All right, future agenda items, we have safety and security audit.
That's taking place this summer with Gina Khan and Ken Willett, thank you. We'll be doing that with with our individual.
Thanks, Radar.
I didn't even have to say Kate's name, you know, so I just paused and she goes.
Let's go with the chopper.
Incoming wounded.
That and the Cabal site, I didn't have that either. So that's happening with our individual stores with Gina and Ken Willett.
And the last thing is, we already talked about school committee goals, 2021, so we have need for executive session.
So just before I know that.
We are the warrants go.
July 7th meeting, there'll be the first few minutes where we make the reorganization. You know, as superintendent and as school committee, I want to thank Cheryl as our chair, Mara as the vice chair, Sean Kennedy as our secretary for filling the year. It's been a heck of a year and for all of us. And so thank you for the roles that you guys have prepared for us for this year. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Speaking of secretary, we have warrants to sign. If you haven't signed them, do it.
Yeah.
Right, so we will come back to adjourn. Can I have a motion?
Do you have to read the thing?
What?
Do you have to read the reason?
Oh, I have to read it.
Yep.
Executive, Michelle, would you love to read it?
Am I allowed to?
No.
No.
Yeah, no,
Executive session
anyone can read
pursuant
it.
to Mass General Law C-30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general special law, specifically Mass General Law C-214, Section 1B, Massachusetts Student Records Law, Massachusetts GLC 71, Section 34B, Massachusetts Student Records Regulations, 603 CMR 2300 et sequitur, and Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act FERPA 20 USC Section 1232G and 34 CFR Part 99 regarding student transfer requests and executive session pursuant to MGLC Chapter 38, Section 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to litigations, including the town of Hamden et al. Versus Hamden Wilbraham Regional School District et al. And other strategy with respect, other claims rather, by former student and parent. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Can I have a motion?
Second.
There you go.
Okay, roll call vote. Laura?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye. Aye.
Michelle E.
I.
Bill?
Aye.
Michelle B.
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Cheryl, aye.
We're coming back just to,
Good, Jim.
we're gonna have cupcakes in between.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
There.
We'll take a 5-minute break.
Okay, I will kick folks out. Okay, we're gonna dump the people in. I'll dump them.
Do you make a sound effect in your head when you do that?
Yep. And unfortunately, it's Ronnie